So welcome to the next episode of Return of the Jaguar Mother. Welcome, Eduardo.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you again.
It's great to see you too. And I have to say that it kind of took us a while to come to doing this next video. You know, it's like we're really reflecting. I know I'll speak for myself. It's like, is this the right thing to do? Is this what I am inspired to do? Is this in alignment with, this feeling of expansion and moving with expansion? Are we still trying to translate to the old world? Or are we expanding and speaking, in honesty and integrity with what we're expanding into? It's always this check and balance, checking in. And at least I'm constantly doing that. And then when we talked on the phone and we talked about doing this, I found that you were doing the same thing, being very reflective and going within to just really find out in your body and in your whole being, are we still doing this? Is this something that has value? All those questions.
Well, yeah, and in addition, we don't get a lot of feedback, but I did have some feedback this last week from someone I really respect, telling me that she really appreciated our last video and that it was something that we had said had really touched her, and that she was really happy that we were doing these little programs that we're broadcasting. And then when we talked this last week and you told me about your amazing dream and how everything technology-wise was just available and it was there, but it was also just a feeling that you were understanding what real abundance means and what having everything available was all there. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And as you described your dream, I was kind of jealous in a way that I hadn't been experiencing any lucid dreams. And so anyway, something you said sparked something in me, and I've had 3 nights of lucid dreaming. And so it's quite unusual because I normally don't remember most of my dreams. However, recently, and I'm not kidding you, the last 3 nights, it's been very powerful lucid dreams that I'd wake up, I have awakened and realized that I can remember what I just saw. And I can remember some of the conversations that took place in the dream, which I've never had happen before. So this may be happening to more and more people all over the planet right now. Or maybe we're just leading the pack a bit. I don't know. I talked to quite a few people. Some of my breathing clients, people who come to learn the hummingbird breath, are experiencing difficulty sleeping. And once they start breathing with intention and do it rhythmically and do it often, they start to sleep better. And so that's one of the things that I really have learned a lot about recently with more and more people. But I want to get to what you talked about experiencing, that you personally experienced a feeling of abundance and a feeling of unlimited advanced technology that was available to you in your dream. But more importantly, that it was a feeling of well-being, that you really came out of that dream happy and joyful and feeling that the feeling of well-being is something very few people seem to be feeling much lately, or a lot lately. So I was wondering if you could kind of expand on that, tell me a little bit more, and then we can move on from there.
Okay, thank you. I want to acknowledge what you said about your dreaming and about taking people through the hummingbird breath. Those 2 things that you just mentioned are ways that we can turn our attention inward. There's a lot of lip service, I notice, that is given to, well, we just got to go within. We got to do this, yeah, this is something we got to do. Well, there's a there's a leap between saying it and making it actual. But this is oftentimes what I refer to as this wall in consciousness that people come to, where they're in the programming and they've deferred to the programming, not only in this lifetime, but by process of generations of wounding and trauma passed down. We kind of just take on all of the programming and all of the wounding that hasn't been exposed, or the spell hasn't been broken. So the breath work, I feel, is a really powerful way to bring the attention inward into your own consciousness and your direct connection to this loving inner guide and presence. Also, dreaming is just a fabulous way to begin to go inward when we say it's time to go within. And a lot of times when I say that to people, they'll immediately say, well, I don't dream. I don't remember my dreams. And they dismiss it. And it's like, well, there's a reason why you don't remember your dreams, because you're not engaged with them. You're not saying, okay, I have my dream journal here. I'm willing to do this. Let's have a conversation, right? With your subconscious. This is a beginning. This is action that one can take that says to all that is, all these aspects of ourself and all that is, hey, I'm engaged. I realize that the outer world is probably not something that I should be dependent upon or getting all of my data from. It's important that I go within and I start to hear my own self with a capital S. That takes time and attention. So people a lot of times will just give up and go back into the programming, right? So they leave that wall that they can transcend, and be lifted out of this dense reality and viewpoint. But what happens is the fear comes in, the fear of the unknown, the fear of not knowing, the fear of not being in control. And the human consciousness will turn back to the programming because that's, what it knows and feels most comfortable with, even though they probably have to live with constant anxiety in the process of doing that. So, what was your original question? Because I kind of went off.
Well, more that we started talking initially about your dream and the feeling of well-being that you had after you came out of the dream, and then I mentioned that the hummingbird breath, or the mystical spiritual breath, the Maya called Ik.
Yes.
And how my clients are coming to me saying how much it's working for them to help them relax and help them deal with issues
Yes.
that in the past. And you just covered that with what you just said, that we're reluctant to go within because most of us don't really quite understand what we mean or what people mean when they say go within. And so the dreaming is one part and the breathing is the other part.
Mm-hmm.
And also the thing that you have often talked about in your messages, and I guess that's really where I really want to take this conversation, is to get into the guts of your message that you brought through after you had the dream. But one of the things that you did bring up that you experienced in the dream was that you were experiencing a popping in and out of from this existence to the higher self existence. And you said that that was one of the most amazing parts of the dream. And so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. It actually wasn't in the dream itself. in the dream I was experiencing, I was on this familiar, in this familiar oval shaped space that has the same kind of design, but in it's like these eggs, and that a couple different kinds of dreams I've had where the egg was designed completely differently with a completely different intention for the meeting I was having. This most recent one was being at the top level of this egg-shaped, dome-shaped space. And I was there, and my purpose was to broadcast. And you were there in the dream, and we were getting ready to go live. Those were the words used in the dream, we're going live. And the technology would just appear when you'd have a thought, like okay, let's set up that, let's set up the go live, and the, these screens would drop down, and then we'd both be,
Like
interact.
like monitors?
Yeah, they looked like monitors. And you would just, you could use your hands, but it wasn't so much about buttons as it was just whoop, intention, right? Like boom, 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 boom. Everything is being set up to go live. And it was extraordinary to feel. These are what I call the inner markers, and the messages have said this that I've brought through. Establishing these inner markers for what we're expanding and moving into. So in this particular dream, I really got that amazing feeling of abundance and limitlessness. Just like there was nothing stopping me from fully being who I am and creating and sending it out, right? That's a new marker for me for what is actual, right? Not what we have been conditioned to believe in the world that we were born into. So the world we were born into is always telling us, that's crazy, this is the real world. Well, when you're an experiencer who has been taken beyond all this so many times, and through these amazing dreams, you begin, and then you eventually come to the full realization that if we just go within and initiate this and begin to have this dialogue, conscious dialogue with this presence within us and this guide, this is where we're headed. This is who we actually are. And it's not the world that we were told what is real, right? So it's not that we're abandoning the world, because yes, we're still here living in the world, but less and less of it, right? Because I and many others like yourself are deferring to the world less and less. We're not denying that all of this stuff is happening, but we're rather moving in the direction of experiencing these new inner markers for who we are. And that was a powerful marker for me of the feelings of abundance, and nothing can stop me because I am this power. I'm aligned with this power. It's not separate from me. It is. I am, and I am extending myself to do what I love, to do what I absolutely love. And so that happened. And then to bring it back to what you asked me about the popping in and out, when I sat down to do my regular dialoguing and connecting on Sunday morning, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, I was dialoguing about it. I was dialoguing the dream. This is part of the going inward that I guide people through. And it started to take me to my consciousness to that broadcasting studio where I was this more expanded being. So I would dialogue, and then I would literally talk myself back into that perspective, you know, not intending to, but that's what was happening. And then I would pop back into me sitting in front of this computer and recording it. And then eventually, when I got the message download and I started translating it, it said, what you just experienced is what many call ascension, basically. But it's not ascension in what you were told and you repeated from the world. In actuality, ascension is synchronizing with these higher aspects of yourself. And so that particular message that you're referring to described that to me. And it like blew my mind as it was happening. As the message was coming through, it took me back, popping me back and forth between the higher aspect of myself and Eileen sitting here in this chair. And I could feel, I got these inner markers. Oh, now I understand what ascension is. Now I understand what that word is that everybody's been saying that I try and avoid because that's just what I do throughout my whole life, trying to explain actual experience or direct experience without cluttering everything up with connotations and the programming that is around language and words. Because in these spaces, there is no language. It's all pure feeling and knowing, which is what my work is about, is helping people remember how to access this. And it starts by being willing to go within and to explore these inner realms, because that's going to inform you in far more greater ways now than anything can inform you from the outer world. Because by its nature, the outer world only has fragments of truth in it. When we go within, we find wholeness and this resonance that fills in the blanks of what is missing. Then we look back into the world and we can see more because we're being informed by this love, by this presence, by this I am that we are. We're being informed from this higher aspect of ourselves. So we can see the truth. We can resonate and find, and that resonance appears in our world. So it's turning yourself, inside out. So you're going back to your power, your core, and you're realigning with it, syncing with it, and then being it. You're still informed, your consciousness, your perspective transformed, and then you're being that, and thereby affecting your world that you are living, breathing, walking within, and relating within from that standpoint and foundation of truth.
Yeah, when I first heard your message and you talked about that confusion that exists around the concept of ascension, in my own mind, every time I've ever come in with that word coming into my mind, it was always about one of these days, we're going to ascend. We're all going to ascend into a higher place, like heaven, let's say. And all this confusion about, well, what is, where are we going? And what are we going to do when we get there? And what is this ascension? And that word does have a lot of variations of how some of us understand what it means, the concept of ascension. And in the message, you even say that it's been confused, that it really isn't what we think it is, that it's not us leaving our bodies and ascending into heaven, because we don't have to leave our bodies to ascend into heaven. Heaven is within, according to the ancient scriptures of some of the masters that have talked about it. So once I got that from your message, once I understood how the difference really started to click in, that it was really, like you just pointed out, it was actually meeting yourself and moving into the higher self, not in a higher place per se, but in a deeper way, in a deeper, higher self. Which again, words are so semantic. The semantics of some words can really confuse us. And so that was really an important part of what you said in the message, that ascension isn't what we believe it is, that it doesn't have to take place to leave your body. You have to, do that in order to ascend, but it actually occurs not outside of us, but within. And I guess that's the other issue that you just brought up, is that the fear of understanding what going within really means, and being afraid of it, because you've often talked about how when we go within, we actually meet our creator.
Yes.
And that the biggest fear we have as human beings is to actually meet our creator.
Yeah.
One of the largest fears. And yet I would say that most of the people I know, conscious, again, another word that probably I shouldn't have used, but many of the people I speak about or to, and they talk with me about this whole concept, it's about understanding that our goal is to be with and walking with our creator. And yet I think, as you've said before, it is one of our biggest fears. So when you gave me this message to listen to, and I started listening to it, it all started to make more sense to me, that we are these, as a matter of fact, you say it in your message, we're infinite beings, that we are infinite beings, and that there's so much more to us that we have forgotten, or we have been conditioned to forget, let's say, that exists, that we truly have all of these amazing powers within us, that they do exist, and that our goal is to start remembering those amazing powers that we do have. And in studying the Mayan teachings, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I've learned from these elders, these beings that we refer to as the elders of the Maya, Ki'iche Maya. They not only have drawings on some of their interiors of their caves and walls of these beings that were amazingly dressed in apparel that was just amazing, and carried themselves as if they were kings and queens and princes and so forth, rather than what we now look at as that they weren't typical human beings. Like they would say that we are these amazing infinite beings, light beings, and that one of these days we're going to remember who we are. And they would talk about the end of the long count, and how we would be coming into this time in the future when we would begin to remember, we would begin to connect the essence of who we are to our reality of our existence as universal citizens, rather than just on one planet. And so in your message, you talk about we're in that period of time now, that I think you mentioned that we're living in a time outside of time and space, and that there is a portal or a window that we are going to go through if we want to. It's up to us. And that window is available to us. And my teachers, Joselo and Carla, would talk about how we would have these windows or portals, the Mayan window they would refer to it as, that would be opening at the end of the long count. Mm-hmm. So I'm relating all of this to you because what your message brought through reminded me of all of the things that I learned from these amazing people in Guatemala. So if you could talk a little bit about that, that would really be interesting for us others to hear about also.
Okay, thank you for, yeah. I love when you weave the Mayan wisdom back into it, because I find that what has come through me and what I have learned through these interactions, these inner INNER actions throughout my life, I find that the ancient wisdom is what resonates the most with what comes through this contact and this evolution of contact for me over my life. It's a when it says, and when it comes through that, you know, you're not actually in time and space right now, I can feel that directly. And everyone, probably just about everybody, has a story or stories about how strange their relationship with time is right now, and space. And yes, we can point to the pandemic or, you know, COVID as and confining us into this smaller space of the world. It is not continuing the way it was, and we're in this thing, this bubble of reality, and we don't know what the future looks like. So we're all being brought into the present moment right now. This is like being an experiencer. When you're an experiencer and you have these extraordinary, you know, or spiritually transformative experiences, you're shoved into the present moment. Now, illness and accident can do this as well. So it's just a shoving of your consciousness into now, right? Everything that we carry within us that is not, that is carrying fear, right? Which is usually, as they say, I have found this resonance in speaking about trauma and, you know, the imbalances, the mental imbalances, physical imbalances, because we carry this fear within our bodies and our emotions. And it kind of clogs it up, right? So, in this space of nowness, it's like the messages have said, it's like a pressing in, right? It's pressing you to respond to it. Are you going to respond with the fear? Are you going to vibrate with the fear in your subconscious, unconscious? Or are you going to recognize that that it is fear and be willing to let it go, to heal it, and to come to balance again, and to come to the truth? And so we see a lot of people now in these circumstances saying, I'm a victim. I'm not going to let the deep state control me, or I'm not going to let the president control me. If we were really paying close attention, you'd see that everybody is going through this, no matter what your outer world belief systems and programming is. Your programming is going to be where it shows up. You know, it's like it's going to come out in this context, right, of what you've learned in your life and what you believe to be true. So it's going to push out, you know, like a boil or a zit, basically. It's going to push out and appear in a certain way, and it's going to be analyzed and talked about in that context. Bottom line is it's just simply misunderstanding at your core. It's conditioning that is repetitive, not only in your life, but in all of your ancestors before you. It's all coming out now in this no time space that we're being held in. So we can believe that we're a victim and that somebody's taking advantage of us, and we got to get back to our identities and our stories the way it was, or we can recognize this is an extraordinarily powerful intersection of consciousness between who you thought you were in the old reality, in the old world, right? We're between worlds, the Maya and the Hopi, and many others, and the Vedic system. It all points to, this in-between world space. This is where our opportunity and our potential lies. We can turn and contract and go into that fear and accept that and define ourselves by fear, and then follow that trajectory to its end. Or we can say, this is crazy, this is insane, I don't know how to explain it. I can't explain what's happening. But I'm going to trust these new markers within me, where I feel these moments of love, I feel expansion. I can't explain that either with my thinking mind, but this is what faith is, right? This is trusting that vibration, that feeling, that frequency of love, and then being willing to not know how this goes and expand into it and say, yes, I'm here and I'm going to move with love, even though I don't fully understand it. When we contract in the choices that are being made right now in this intersection, when we choose contraction, we're just saying, I'm too scared to expand. I'm too scared to not have a story. I'm too scared to not be a victim, because being a victim is my identity. So I'm just going to go with whatever is the biggest story out there that makes me feel good about myself, like I've got power, and I'm going to follow that person, or I'm going to follow that narrative, because I feel some sense of safety in this identity, because I've lost my identity with this, with COVID and lockdown and all of these measures. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know where I'm going. Well, welcome to being an experiencer, where in my case, everything you thought you knew about yourself got wiped clean. Your hard drives, all the programming. It's like these visits would just wipe it all clean, and I'd have to figure out who I was again, and where am I going, and what's my identity, and then I'm back in all these questions again. And it's not a comfortable space to be in when that fear starts to vibrate and say, oh, no, and all the programming, which is the fear is like glue for the programming. And we just start to, the mind panics, the egoic mind panics. And it's like, well, what's a good story? What do I'm going to grab onto this story. And then that's going to make me feel better and stop panicking, this deep inner anxiety and panic that is shouting at you to come inside. Find out who you are. This is your opportunity. Don't just grab onto anything in the outer world. That is just the physical reality. The movie screen of everything that we thought we were. being projected out there, and we're having this crazy disconnect with our outer world now, because it's like, wait, that's not who I am. Where is me out there? Where do I find me? And then again, if you are living in fear and hanging on to that fear, you're going to gravitate to the next fear story and narrative. But if you're not finding you out there, that's a good indicator that you're listening, that you're on some level, you're going, I don't know what to do. So this could come in the form of anxiety and confusion and sleeplessness, because what's happening? I can't find a way forward out there, right? So it's calling you inside. And this is your opportunity to remember, like you said, the Maya, your teacher shared about the Mayan wisdom. This is that time where we have this opportunity to remember more of who we are and embody it and practice it in the world. It's not about, we're all lifting off and ascending, bye-bye. It's remembering, opening, expanding, embodying that which we are, and practicing being that in our world and changing, transforming that world, because we are being who we actually are.
Yeah, you've mentioned that in the message that came through, was how important it is to begin practicing this, going to your higher self, not going outside of yourself, but finding that part of yourself within. And instead of looking for a middleman between you and the Creator, to go within and go direct to the Creator.
Yes.
To Source Creator, and start practicing this embodying who you really are, who we really are, and making that movement inward so that we can be ready for anything, so that we can begin to remember how to use the tools that are already within us, so that we can hear what we need to hear and see what we need to see, I think is how you worded it in your message.
Yes.
That's the goal of practicing.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I must address this, because it was what I originally wanted to respond to when we opened. When we talk, I have to make it clear, when we talk about Source Creator, original Source Creator, the Absolute, the True God, I have used all of these phrases instead of just God, because what happens in the world that we were born into, and which has been referred to as like the containment in some of the messages, is you find out when you are brought into these present moment transformational experiences that what you were told God was is not what our source is. The closest thing that is true in the world, that you can find in the world and in the Bible, is God is love. That is the Creator that I've met. That is the Creator that has come alive inside of my being. That is the source of my inspiration. That is the feeling of expansion, like scary because it's so huge, but is it going to annihilate me because it's so huge? No, it's not going to annihilate you. You build a relationship with it. Now, I don't know who this God character is that that people speak of, that's a vengeful God and kills people and tells you to kill people, and I don't. To me, that's the opposite of God. That is not the spirit and the grace that I have met repeatedly and always in process of integrating. The God that was given to us in this reality, in this density, it's like everything else. Unless, I mean, you can see truisms, right? And you can have inspirational moments, and that was the angels, or that was God, or that was, and there was a miraculous healing, and these things happen. But from what this presence has informed me of is that's not supposed to be how it is. Glimpses of love, glimpses of miracles. That is not your natural state. Your natural state is to be experiencing that always. That's who you are. In this reality, we have reduced it to through the context of religion. It's we were given a miracle because we prayed, and and maybe so. I'm all for the power of prayer, but I was taught how to pray directly to this presence, and it's all it is being honest. Just purely honest and innocent, and speak from that space, and that connects you to this presence. And then you get to practice being this, not putting up the mask when you go outside and saying, yes, I'm just like you, and I'm going to pretend to be like you, but practicing removing that mask and being who you are, not apologizing for who you are. That is what changes the world, because you're allowing that light that you've connected to actually come through. If you block it, you're saying, oh no, you're like Judas Iscariot, right? Is that the one that denied, or was that? Sorry, I don't know my Bible. But there's some amazing things in the Bible.
Temporarily, you forgot the name. Happens to me all the time.
Well, the one who betrayed and said, no, I don't know this guy. We're basically doing that every time somebody asks us a question, and like, oh, I heard you had ET experiences. That's crazy. Instead of me going, oh no, that wasn't, no, I didn't have ET experiences. I go, yeah, I know it sounds crazy. It can really sound crazy, but wow, I have discovered more through these interactions. I've learned so much by not judging it and laughing at it, but actually turning towards it and building a dialogue with it and saying, what is this? What are you? Why am I so terrified? Being curious, right? Instead of just shutting everything down and being afraid and not talking because I'll be judged. And yeah, hell yeah, I've been judged. But I trust this presence more than I trust the world and what everybody tells me to be afraid of in the world. That's the difference.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you very well. And I know that you practice going direct to source creator, and that you do it in a way that is uplifting because you're choosing love. And in your message, you talk about how we can begin practicing to be better at going within, so that we can go direct to our true selves and start to align with our higher self, the many of us that exist within us that you call the higher selves. I think that that's an important part of this whole talk we're doing right now, because many people are asking me questions, calling me saying, how do I go within? How do I start practicing and getting ready for anything that should occur that we have to deal with as human beings on the planet, whether it's a hurricane or a fire or a riot that we're involved in some respect. We're all at this point facing our fears. We're all having to look at what is it we're afraid of. And overcoming the fear is first recognizing that it really isn't real, that we've been programmed and conditioned with much information that gets us to feel fear of many things. And what we have to start doing is let go of that and choose love. And so that would be one of the things that you brought up. And that the question I was going to ask was regarding this broadcasting that we are talking about doing. How do we do this in a way that we can help others? And you said very clearly, first, choose love. And second, don't judge. Do not judge others for what they think or what their decisions are. If someone chooses to be involved in bickering and arguing and fighting and rioting and so forth, burning down other people's businesses because they're angry, that is their choice. We don't choose that. We choose the path of love. And when I take a look back at the things I experienced in Guatemala and the Mayan people there, the very humble group of human beings that live there, they don't get involved in a lot of the politics. They may be now because there's a lot of their land has been taken from them and they'd like to get some of it back. And there's all these other issues that many indigenous peoples are having to stand up and say, no, you can't take our land. You can't cut down our trees anymore. All of this stuff is starting to happen. Why? Because they're no longer afraid, because they're starting to understand that it's by letting go of fear and choosing love and loving this planet and loving ourselves and loving our kids and knowing that we have to change things in order to have a planet that's healthy enough for our grandchildren to live on and for our children to live on and for us to live on. We must choose love. That's the answer. And to be engaged in defending the smaller identity is what most of us spend most of our times doing. The arguing and bickering and dealing with just the desire to create division between us and others. That whole plan is being pushed on us right now in a very strong ways. And what we have to do is remember these guidance that you've given us in choosing love, helping one another and lifting each other up, but especially in choosing to go within. And we talked a little bit on the phone the other day about how the Mayan portal, what they call the Mayan window, or the portal that's within, that is studied in the glyph Ig, that we use for breathing. It's in the form of a T that we're finding is in many places all over the world. That sacred T letter that we're seeing in Göbekli Tepe and we're seeing in Peru, and it's pretty much all over the world. That is a symbol that represents the window that we go within, that we go through, in order to discover that source creator that is existing within us. So to me, that's an important part of understanding these a process that we can start applying to our own minds, to our own selves, to start practicing, getting ready and preparing our heart, our minds, and our spirits to deal with this present moment that we're in right now, this time of awakening, this time of remembering. And as these portals, if there is a portal and we can actually go through it, are we going anywhere outside of ourselves? Apparently not. It's actually going within and finding that higher self within. And that, I think, is really confusing for a lot of people.
Resonating with that higher self. Yeah. It's we get caught looping in our thinking mind, and we're trying to figure everything out with just thought. And again, when these moments of connection happen, you are filled in by this resonance, this love that you just know, oh, I get it now, right? There are a lot of warriors on the planet right now. There are warriors born into this containment who have very, very specific jobs and service, very specific things they came to discover and build, create. And they work in the outer world, building new systems and new um, ways to serve humanity, you know, in a higher consciousness way. You don't hear from them. You don't see them very often. They're working quietly. It's like quiet warriors, right? There's nothing, I also want to jump to, there's nothing wrong with activism. If you're connecting to love and that force within you, and you're being inspired by this creative force within you to take a stand and speak the truth, that's the most powerful activism one can be engaged in. If you're, again, going back to what we were saying earlier, if you're defending a smaller identity, you're taking a stand for your worldly identity, that's not going to have as much power. And you can't really win in the end with that approach. If you want to see the world become this beautiful, you know, vision of, you know, connectivity and empowerment and community and symbiotic relationship with the natural world, this has to happen within first, this alignment again, and then it's extended out into the world to create that. So there are quiet warriors working on all these levels in the world. Yeah. There are also quiet warriors who are working on expansion of consciousness and reaching these spaces of connectivity on an inner level, and, you know, being born here and going through all the pain and suffering, you know, that we go through. Some have more than others. But the slow but sure kind of awakening and remembering and having these grand expansive experiences and being transformed by them and going, oh my God, I thought humanity was this, but humanity is this, right? This is who we are. And there are a lot of quiet warriors working in this realm. And when we reach this critical mass, vibrational humming of truth and empowerment, and we're now embodying this. We don't have to think about embodiment. Embodiment just happens once this connection is made within. That's a process of just practicing being you and not denying it anymore, being it. Then it builds and it becomes more manifest in the world. So all these quiet warriors are working inner and outer. Some are doing inner and outer. Some are simply the quiet warriors, like they're like really different kind of people. Maybe they're on the autism spectrum, you know, these quiet, brilliant geniuses that are busy working on rebuilding systems that are aligned with the earth and aligned with the cosmos, all at the same time, bringing us back into that balanced state. And then there are trajectories for human beings who insist on staying in fear. And there are trajectories that I've been shown, and I've brought through these downloads messages about what some of those trajectories look like. And it's about denying your spark within yourself and saying, I agree with what this outer world story and narrative is, and I'm going to go with that instead of my own inner connection. And when we do that, we just agree to become, let's say, more like a machine. We just agree to it. And let's go back for a moment to what we opened with. The relationship I had to technology in the dream it was an extension of my whole consciousness. I was all here. My consciousness was alive. And so the technology was in service to me. It was intelligent, and it understood me and my direction. That's me with soul on board. I'm here, I'm all here. When you take that into a further disconnect from soul, because the reason we have all the problems we do in this realm is because we're disconnected from soul and the feminine, the mother. If you take that further disconnect from the truth of who we are and how we were designed to be, and we surrender that to transhuman technologies, you're not all here. You're not interacting with it as a whole being, as a sovereign being, spiritually sovereign being. Instead, the technology continues to control the human because you've surrendered this core aliveness, this core connection to your source creator. And you've said, I am nothing. Please give me this technology so I can feel like something. We do not get our power from outside, period. And that's why we're all upside down and confused right now, because we gave 100% of our attention to the outer world and what it was telling us, how it was telling us to feel. You were in advertising and marketing. I was too. It tells you how to feel and how to be, and it tells you to be afraid. Unless you have this product or this service, you're screwed. So you better, earn the money to come up with it so that you can be normal and in alignment with what you're supposed to be here. And your story is you couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't continue in any area of my life to lie. So it takes courage. It takes courage to stop lying. It takes courage to say, you know what? I don't know what the hell's going on, but I know this ain't right. And I know I'm afraid of expansion. So here I am, trapped in anxiety. What do I do? And so you and I have talked about, how can we help? I'm looking into different platforms and different ways of building community to mirror for each other, to talk about just how is this done. I've been practicing it for my whole life. Didn't know it for most of my life, but now it's all come together and I see. I'm not done seeing, but I see what this whole intersection is about. And I'd like to help people practice this. But they have to understand it's not about, the 10 steps to awareness, full awareness and embodiment and wholeness of, the human being that you were designed to be. It's not a process. It's not a level. It's not linear. It requires your will to engage with this presence directly. And all I can do, or you can do, or others who do this kind of work, all we can do is demonstrate it and say, I know nothing from the world. All I know is this repeated experiential uncovering of the truth. And that's what I can pass on to you. And that's what I'd like to create. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm holding the space for that.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's confusing right now on what direction to go and what do you say, what do you talk about, and yet as we both talked about earlier, it's really important to understand that everything we need is already within us. Just a matter of learning and reminding one another of how to start using those tools. And when we do, a lot of answers will come. In fact, the outlook that many people project onto us through the media is that the earth is out of balance and we got problems. And yeah, there's fires and there's hurricanes. There's always been fires and hurricanes. There's always been tornadoes. There's always been earthquakes. What's happening right now is that many human beings are losing hope. And what we have to do is remind them that they are the hope.
Yeah.
We are the hope. We are the ones that have to change the way we think and the way we feel in order for us to manifest the earth, the planet, the beauty that has always been there is still there. Right. We just have to start going back and recreating with earth the beauty that it is. Mm-hmm. And human beings are extremely powerful. And that's the message that you came through with over and over as you talked in that message, was that we have to remember that we are these infinite beings with infinite powers. And once we start developing those powers and using them for love and for creation of love and positive things, instead of arguing and bickering and doing all the other things which we have to leave behind, and let get it out of our lives and focus our attention on practicing love. Think it, feel it, be it, do it, all of the things that are necessary, because it is the most important force and the most powerful force in our super universe. And all we have to do is start using it in our own personal lives and sharing it with the people around us. And the ones who are with us in that movement, in that progression, in that ascension.
Reorientation, restoration, yes. Ascension, yes.
Yes, that is the group that we want to focus our attention on now more than ever.
Yep. Yeah, the ones who they know, you know who you are. You're serious about this. When you hear these things, there's something that comes alive inside of you and just says, yes, I know this is true, not because I'm saying it or you're saying it or anyone who says these things. Yes. But because you notice the resonance and you go, yes, this truth within me is resonating with what that person just said. And that's making me feel alive and empowered. So I'm going to move in this direction, right? Not fear. But even though there's no answers, there's no like, well, I need to understand what this is because what if it's the devil or what if it's, well, that is your effing programming. That programming comes in and and challenges you right when you're at this wall that we're ready to transcend. And that wall isn't outside, that wall is inside, where we have walled off our greater consciousness to participate in this smaller, denser reality.
Yes.
And so when we start to expand, that's when the wall just dissolves. And that's how we transcend this. That's how we restore balance and sanity and joy and compassion and creativity. And all of it's here. And all of it is available to us. And I also want to mention our currency, our value, right? Because in the world, we've been told that we don't have value unless we go work and earn these, dollar bills or or digits on a screen now. And that's our value. So that's, you can see how that's upside down. That is not true. We are value directly connected to the current of the divine.
Yes.
And once we reestablish that currency, which I could talk about Kundalini and Koyopa, but we're probably need to come to a close here soon, is once we remember and restore that, that's abundance. That's when we go, oh, abundance isn't, we don't have to translate the meaning and the definition of abundance through the currency that exists in this lower matrix reality. That's not who you are. So it's, again, it's coming back to the center of your consciousness within, reorienting to this, knowing your value, and then being your value in the world.
Being your value and being able and willing to be proud of that value and shine, because that's the key to demonstrating to our children and our grandchildren that we are what they want to be like. We don't want to carry around an AR-15 or an AK-47 and say, this is what, a man's like. No, that's a coward's way of doing things. That shows fear. If you're afraid, you go out and you get a bigger gun or you get a bigger clip that holds more bullets. That's fear.
Yeah.
That's the coward's way.
Mm-hmm.
The light being, the one that's within us, needs to be awakened again. It's in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that light being that's in all of us must shine, and it must be a bright light that is coming from a place of love and feeling love.
Yes.
And letting go of the other stuff. As I said, that's what you've been teaching me through your messages. I've learned over and over through listening to you speak and other people who I respect also, about the love and joy that we can start bringing in to ourselves and having within us, and then we begin to shine.
Yes.
And that is the goal of us humans right now, is to be the light beings that we really are.
Yes.
To shine and be the light beings that we
Mm-hmm.
really are.
Yeah.
Because universal beings are infinite, and we are universal beings. And we
Yes.
have to remember that now.
Right. And there's nothing here to believe in. There's nothing here that you have to abandon yourself and go to believe in. It's a knowing. It's
Knowing, yes.
The reorientation occurs and you just know. You don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to, there's nothing that you have to gravitate to that somebody else is telling you you should think and do and be. This comes from within. Realign with that. And you'll always know. You'll know what you need to know when you need to know it. You'll hear that still small voice. You continue to pray to be aligned with it. If you get out of alignment, there are things that I could share with people about how to quickly realign with this center of self, with the core. I'd like to do that now. I want to try and create something like that, because I've never been able to build anything in the old world. I never fit in the old world. I know that we share this this feeling. We tried really hard, and I know so many others. Bless you all. I know who you are that I've connected with. You just have never been able to find your way here. And there's a reason for that. You weren't born here to fit in and to find your spot in this lower matrix reality. You were born into this to grow out of it and break the spell and be who you are and demonstrate that for those around you. It's time. It's time now. There is no future time where this is going to happen. It's happening right now. And how we show up for that is there's no measurement here in the world. That measuring rod is within yourself and with your creator. This is
Yeah.
where what it all boils down to is, are you willing to meet your maker now in form? Or do you want to meet your maker by losing the body and coming back again until you realize, oh my God, I get it now. This is about synchronizing with the truth. This is about synchronizing with our original source creator, the power that we are, and how we were originally designed to be. When will you show up for that? When will you say yes to that? That's the real question. You don't have to answer to anybody else out there. Just answer to that presence within yourself. Start talking with it now, because we're in this time where this window, just in my own sensing, I don't get my information from anywhere out in the world. Everything I get and share is from within me and this relationship to the divine within myself. This window will be closing. And then, decisions are made, and it's like the train station analogy. It's like, here comes your train. This is what you vibrate with. This is where you're going.
Yeah.
So raise that vibration by engaging and being truthful and honest and innocent. Innocence is an amazing portal opening. That opens the window when you just, like Jesus said, be as a little child. That's what that means. Just forget everything that you were ever programmed with. Be as a little child in that pre-programmed state and say, I don't know anything. I'm just here, and that's pretty. And I like that. It comes down to the basics of what I love and what I'm delighted by, and the curiosity. Tell me more about that. I want to know about that, right?
Yes. And we will talk more and more about these things, and our broadcasting will start soon.
Okay, good. That feels good to me. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm ready for that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll have, as usual, contact information and the links below. I think as we move forward and, figure this out, I just want to, I've had some extraordinary people in my life who have come along at just the right time to mirror these things for me and to say, you're doing well. You're doing really well. Or I have a dream that tells me you're doing really well, and you're loved. Feel that, and these are the kinds of resources that we can bring back into our everyday consciousness and not make it some weird, crazy thing, that everybody judges as crazy. I don't care. I've been called crazy so many times now that it just doesn't even faze me. I know the truth. I know what it feels like. Yes. Nothing can sway me from that. Nothing.
I know, and I support you.
I know you do. Thank you. Yes, and I support that in you as well. We mirror this to each other, and I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful for our friendship and your presence in my life. There were times that if you hadn't have been there to just remind me of who I am, I just don't know if I would have made it. And I know that other people have those stories as well. And they have these very special souls in their lives that just help them to keep going. So and thank you.
You've done that for me also. You really have. You encouraged me to finish this book.
Yeah.
And I got a compliment yesterday from a woman who read this book up in Denver, telling me that it was perfect timing for this book to come out now.
Yes.
And how much she appreciated it. And so it was really good for me to hear that. And I want to acknowledge you for helping me complete it. You helped a lot. Thanks.
Yeah,
So we'll be back soon with another program, with another Mother Jaguar talks.
Yes, thank you for this one. This really felt wonderful. Thank you. I love you.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.